Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Before we get started, as always, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So would everybody please rise? And Councilman Schneider, would you lead us, please?
Be my honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you please take a moment to reflect upon the sacrifices that are made by both our servicemen and women, and given the events recently with multiple police officers being shot in the line of duty and multiple casualties while serving and defending our freedoms in Afghanistan in the past few days. It's just more important, especially during this holiday season, to be appreciative of the freedoms that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here this evening. And thank you all at home for watching this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Tonight's Town Board meeting is a work session, and the date is Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. For the record, all Town Board members are present with us this evening, as is our Town Clerk, Ann Spofford. Ann, thanks for being here. And Greg Fulchetti, our Town Council, all the way down to my left. Mary Ann Maxwell, our Town Controller, is with us here as well. And we have some members of our ECB board that are attending also, because there's a public hearing tonight on the proposed amendments to the ECB, the Wetlands Code, the Town of Carmel. So prior to coming out here for the public meeting, the Town Board met in executive session at 6 p.m., all board members, to discuss a personnel matter. So the first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting. And is there anyone here that's in the audience that came here to comment on public hearing number 1, the peddling law? Okay, if there's not, Councilwoman McDonough?
Yeah, if not, I'd like to make a motion to reschedule this public hearing number 1, the proposed law amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting.
Okay, motion to made by Councilwoman McDonough to reschedule.
Are we going to add a date or not?
Yeah, why don't you put January 16th?
We'll put January 16th.
January 16th? Okay.
Right, that is a Wednesday, right? I think it is.
Hold on, we'll put January 16th
enough
after we
time
make
to do
sure
it
it's a
tomorrow.
Wednesday.
It is. You want to do it for the following?
It's up to the board.
Yeah, we can do it on a
I wouldn't
voting
do it the 9th,
Let's do it at a voting.
so do it the 23rd. But then the 23rd.
23rd?
23rd?
All right. January 23rd, 2019.
No, it's a voting.
It's voting. 2/9/16 will be voting, right? The second is going to be your organizational voting.
Yeah.
So the 16th will be the voting meeting.
So back to the
So I think
16th.
go back to the 16th.
I work the 16th.
So
Okay.
motion to reschedule to January 16th, 2019.
Okay, and the reason for this is there's one amendment that the board will be making to the proposed change to the peddling code. So we're going to make one change. It's a substantive change, so we have to do this. It has to be renoticed and rescheduled. All right. Councilman Schneider seconded that?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Zanachi? Yes. Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to public hearing number 2 on a proposed local law amending Chapter 89 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Freshwater Wetlands. So I need a, oh, I'm sorry. Town Clerk, would you please read, is it a lengthy reading, Ann? All right, can you just read it as pre-filed, or can you just read the,
I will read
just the beginning part of it? You don't have to read through the whole.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel will conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, in Colpack, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, November 28, 2018, at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed local law amending Chapter 89 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Freshwater Wetlands, as follows. Town of Carmel proposed local law number, if adopted, it would be number 5 of the year 2018. A local law amending Chapter 89 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Freshwater Wetlands. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County of Putnam, State of New York, as follows. And then it goes on to list the proposed many changes, it looks like, to the wetlands chapter of the Carmel Town Code. At said public hearing, all interested persons shall be heard on the subject thereof. The town board will make every effort to assure that the public hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the town clerk. And I just want to point out that copies of the proposed local law, the notice of the public hearing, are available here at the meeting on the table and are at the town, and is on the Town of Carmel website for review.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Town Clerk. Appreciate that, reading of that. So this time, I need a motion from board member to open the public hearing, and I need a second also.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lupinacci to open,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Borelli to open the meeting also. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing is now open on the amendments to the freshwater wetlands, Chapter 89 Code of the Town of Carmel. Is there anyone here that would like to, oh, we do have a couple of speakers, okay, that signed up to speak. All right, so I'm going to call up Robert Laga to, he's the first speaker that signed up on the amendments to Chapter 89. Bob, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Laga. I'm here as a resident, and I'm also chair of the ECB. First off, I want to say thank you very much. The
You
job
wanna
that
put
was
that-
done on the...
Get that microphone
Yeah, pull the
closer. We have a
microphone.
problem with that for the people at home.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time to go through the code and revamping it, because it certainly needed to be streamlined a bit, and this was a good vehicle to do it. In going through it, I really don't have many comments on it, with the exception of two or three. The first one is, the code changes our responsibility from monitoring wetlands from the town of Carmel wetlands to only, instead of us monitoring the DEP, DEC, or any other state wetlands that are not shown on the town of Carmel map, which I understand we're trying to streamline. We don't want to duplicate the processes, but my concern is that it then should become a requirement of the building department that when they issue a permit to a resident who's working on or adjacent to a state or DEP or DEC wetland, that they ensure that that applicant has followed the protocol for that agency. We work in conjunction with both agencies when we issue permits for applicants. But now, instead of doing it with a broad brush, we're doing our permitting on a smaller scale via the new Mayapack wetlands map. So if there could be some sort of a vehicle in here, or in the planning board approval, or the building department permit, that, you know, any wetlands in the area to verify that there are no wetlands adjacent to work that's being done, and if so, have they met those requirements? SWIP, a stormwater prevention pollution plan, all the stuff that we ask for. And if they're using heavy equipment, we want to make sure that they have spill containment pads and make provisions in the event there's an oil leak or a fuel leak. So that's number one. And then the other one is, second one is, this map, is this going to be updated to the current topography or topography of the area, or are we just going to use the map? The map is right here.
That's this one, right?
Yes.
No?
It's this one.
Here we go.
This one. That one.
Rick, can you comment on that? Bob,
We're going to update the, are we going to update the map, I mean, to current identified wetlands, or we're just going to,
So
use the existing map.
The map is based on the existing map with the removal of the New York State DEC regulated wetlands. So that's what remains as what is left as the map. So
Okay.
taking the original map that we had, you remove DEC regulated wetlands, you remove water bodies, and you remove streams. Those are the wetlands, those are the town regulated wetlands.
Well, we're going to streams. In reading the code, it says that any infrequent use of a stream, I think streams are covered in the code, the way I read it.
In the new code?
Yes, sir. Because it's not, think about, logically, is if we're building something near a stream without the 100-foot buffer, something bad happens, that has the opportunity to go down the stream into the body of water. And that's what we're trying to protect, our drinking water, our recreational waters, people's wells, because the wetland is basically a big filter for water. So I think streams should be left in here as well. Again, my interpretation of reading the new code, if I have to err on the side of caution, I'm assuming streams are being addressed. I just have to find the note.
Rich, are streams addressed in the state and in the DEP?
So if the board may recall, the original intention of pulling this, rewriting this particular code was the original code overextended the reach of what an environmental or wetlands code should be. It included water bodies and streams, which are covered under a different section of New York state law,
Right.
which is Article 15, which is what they're covered under. So,
Okay.
So a lot of the local towns and villages here in the area all have virtually the same language as our original wetlands. The code that we have now, the wetlands code, not the one that's being proposed. A lot of the local towns and villages have the same language, all written by the same, at least we believe, the same consultant at that time, and just wrote it and everyone just adopted it. It was something that was going on. But it was never really delved into. So when you really look at Article 24, sorry, this just turned it off, versus Article 15, our code was overextending on it.
Because if I read Section 89.4, General Regulations, Paragraph B, none of the activities set forth below shall be commenced or carried out in or within 100 feet of any wetland, body of water, water course, or intermittent stream or adjacent area within the town of Carmel until, except as provided herein, a permit or letter of permission has been duly issued in accordance with the procedures set forth in the chapter. So my interpretation of that, I'm just an engineer, to me says that it would include streams. And I just want to make sure that that's the intent of this board, because, you lose a stream, you lose things. So I just,
As chairman of the Environmental Conservation Board, are you recommending that streams
yes,
remain as part of, under your
yes,
oversight?
yes. It's not going to really affect anybody building or
Right.
anything. It's just another, but we're looking at 100 feet. Worst case scenario, make the buffer 50 feet if you want for a stream. But typically we do 100 foot, and I would like to see the streams left in.
Okay.
Greg, correct, as it reads right now, the streams are left in based on that verbiage?
89.4B covers water courses or intermittent streams with a 100-foot setback.
And I think that these were actually changes that were made on the recommendations that the ECB had
Right,
made
we
at our
had
previous
made,
meeting.
you sent like that
It was
3-page.
50 in the prior version, and it was moved back to
Yeah,
100.
and I think I don't want to speak for the whole board, but I think that the intent of this is, like Rich said, bring it up to code, but we don't want to take away any of the authority that you guys would have to protect the water that our residents depend on. So I think that the concern that you have for the streams is definitely addressed in it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, fine.
Is the 100 feet, it's or within 100 feet of any wetland body, water course, intermittent stream, or adjacent, 100 feet?
100 feet
It's
is
good?
standard.
It's standard?
It's standard.
Now, Greg, do we need to do any change on this in order to have something done with building department, planning board, application somewhere where they have to check it off in regards to compliance with other regulatory bodies?
What you have to understand is, the regulatory bodies have their own governing criteria for when they issue permits and monitoring the work that's done pursuant to the permits. So if you're saying that there is a subdivision application or a site plan application
Right.
that has a DEC or an ACOE permit that's needed, is the board willing to put upon the upstairs office of building or engineering the responsibility to monitor what those agencies are supposed to monitor when they issue the permits? That's the question.
Not to interrupt you, is because what we've been doing for the last, I don't know, 8 years since I've been on the board, is when somebody comes in with an application for, and it either shows a DEC or a DEP wetlands on it, we review the application as if it's coming to us as a fresh application, but as part of that application, the applicant will say, I've already applied to the DEP, I've already applied to the DEC, I've already applied to the Army Corps of Engineers, whichever one was applicable, and our conditions are great, once you get those permits, please provide them to us for the file, and then we don't make them reinvent and do the entire process over. We just basically take the information, verify that it's done, make sure if they forgot a spill kit or something silly, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we issue the permit. Now we've lost that double check, and instead of us doing it, we have to pass it. Somebody has to double check to make sure that that they've obtained the required permits, like the SWIP, or Rich reviews the SWIP after we get it, and he's the town engineer. He reviews it, he approves it, and it's part of the process. But there's no double check now, and that's concerning. So, and I'm just throwing it out there as a suggestion, as the building department, to say to the applicant, did you file necessary any regulatory permits? It's a yes or a no or an NA. That's it.
But Bob, wouldn't the applicant know if they had to get those? Like, why isn't it the applicant that would have to know
It's
to
the
get
applicant's
those?
responsibility.
Right.
The engineering firm that they hire would be their
Yeah,
responsibility to
yeah.
do that.
I
But-
just don't want, what I don't want, our employees here are already taxed to the rim. I don't want our employees to be doing everybody else's work. Do
And-
you
and
know
I-
what I'm saying?
And I get that.
Yeah.
But that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing.
The issue that this log is bringing up is, when there's a subdivision or site plan application that has a planning board approval, I think it's less of a concern. What we're maybe a concern if somebody just needs a building permit, okay?
Somebody's putting a pool in their
There's no-
backyard,
yeah, and there's no
next to a
planning
DEP
process.
wetland.
The planning board intervention in that.
So they may
Then-
not
then
know.
Right.
Who's
Okay.
monitoring from building with respect to the state or the other agency to issue permits compliance, being that the ECB is not going to have the jurisdiction now to issue the local permit in addition to the state?
And again, our process is not, and we also now take away and I'm not sure with the DEC, DEP, if they require, and I'm gonna just use this term loosely, public hearing or public notice for an application, but at least with us, when we would get an application in front of us, yes, the applicant would have to wait 1 or 2 meetings to go through the 25-day process, and that gave anybody who was interested in this project an opportunity to come to the town hall, pull the file, read through it. Any questions? No. No comments from the public. Good to go. They come in the next meeting, we show them the secret handshake, and we go on. So that's just, I'm gonna leave that to you folks to debate. And then the last item is tree cutting. Tree cutting. We did not touch the tree code, right? The tree,
Right, there's a separate code. for tree
separate
cutting.
code for tree, yeah, because we've had some instances in the past 2 years where we've actually enhanced the harvesting of trees on properties where, detrimental situations could have happened to the adjacent neighbors, where we worked with the logger and we worked with the owner, and we, mitigated any potential problems that were there. And at the end of the day, they weren't happy that the trees were coming down, but at the end of the day, they understood that everything was done keep it right for them. So that was all I had. Otherwise, just those other topics I brought up. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Is there any other members of the ECB that would like to come up and comment? Nick?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here in this public hearing. My name is Nick Fannin. I am the Vice Chairman of the Environmental Conservation Board of the Town of Carmel. I also am a resident, live in over in Carmel Water District 2, over in Carmel. So I do have a couple of comments, and I want to start off by saying, echoing Bob's comments, which is thank you very much for revisiting this code. I've been on the board now for going on, I think, close to 4 or 5 years. And so we having to deal with this code day in, day out, it's legacy. It's an old code. It hasn't been touched in a long time. There's certainly parts in there that don't make sense for us to really follow anymore, and I really appreciate the streamlining that this board has pushed through with the changes proposed here. Specifically, I wanted to just call out a couple of pretty points that I enjoyed on here reading through this. One is the decrease in the board to 5 members. It's, of course, you guys know, has been certainly a challenge to make sure that we are meeting the required quorum every night with only 5 members and a 4-member quorum needed. I think we've done a very, very good job. I believe in the last 2 years we might have only had to cancel a single meeting, even with only 5 people. But other than that, decreasing it to reflect what's really happening, great. With regards to the streams, watercourses, water bodies, again, I won't bring it up. Bob covered it pretty well, and you guys had a discussion. I will also stress that all of our water sources in the town, in the county, are connected. There's no, pond over there. We don't have to worry about it because it's DEC. They're all connected, and they all feed into the same water that comes out of my tap, that comes out of your tap. So I want to stress very much that no matter whose jurisdiction any sort of water is, whether it's a swamp, whether it's an intermittent stream, whether it's just streams when the snow is melting, it all comes through our tap eventually. So with that in mind, I did want to talk about the point that Bob also just mentioned and kind of double down on a little bit. So we see a lot of permits and applications that come before us that do have to go through other agencies, state agencies, even federal agencies, Army Corps of Engineers, of course. Many, many times we have to provide a double check. And I actually did a look back today over the course of the last few years, and I keep very detailed notes of the meetings that we have. And on close to 95% of all applications that have come before us that did require either an Army Corps of Engineers or Army Corps of Engineer application or a DEC permit, we've required some changes. We've required things. For instance, spill kits. That might not sound like a big deal, but it can be a big deal if one of these big machines on a big lot, something that's going up, blows a gasket, has a leak, a major leak on a hydraulic line. All of a sudden you have this machine that is potentially right near a stream going right into our water supply. Like that could be really bad. We require spill kits on site. We work with the developers who come before us, the builders, even homeowners, and say, if you're having heavy machinery, please make sure you're taking care. Put a spill kit on site. Don't just tell us, put it in your plan. Make sure that your builders, your third-party contractors that you're hiring know that we care about our water supply here. Not just that, there's other small things that we do. If you're keeping machinery on property overnight, make sure you're parking it on a poly. Go to Home Depot, buy one of those plastic sheets, and make sure you're parking on it. Because as we all know, I have a diesel truck, and it's quite old, from '97. It leaks. It leaks on my driveway. These big vehicles that are 10, 20 years old, 30 years old, they leak a lot. They have a lot more oil in their vehicles than I have in my truck. And they're parking on property that is right next to, like when they come before us, they're parking on property that's right next to our water supply sources. So these things often get either overlooked or not even mentioned on these higher level agencies because they're not thinking about what's happening at the local level. They don't know the streams here. They don't know the people that live here. They don't know the builders. Honestly, they do have some public notices. I'll give them the benefit of that. They have a lot of coverage. For instance, the DEC The DEC itself has this region that we're in right here, goes from north of us, so Dutchess, and I think even one county, all the way to Montauk. That's the region. There's 2 offices for that region. They cover every town from here to Montauk. They don't know what's happening at the local level. Maybe when something comes in, a big project, they'll pay more close attention to it. But there are many, many times when we've had to provide that double check and say, please provide a rain garden, because we don't want the roof leaders just going directly onto the streams. We want it filtered before it gets onto there. Put it through a rain garden. And we've had no problems. I can't recall any problems in the last few years where a homeowner or somebody isn't perfectly understanding and saying, yeah, we probably should protect the water. And if I'm doing it, it's great that my neighbors are doing it. It's great that developers are doing it. If everyone's doing it, we have no problem. So I want to underscore that part, that if this agency, if this board isn't responsible for moving forward, for double checking and making sure that our public here has an opportunity to comment on what their neighbors' projects are, then it needs to be somewhere. It needs to be something, because the bulletin that comes out from the DEC, again, I got it, they have a huge jurisdiction. It comes out, it's, I think, weekly. I don't know who's subscribed to it. I certainly wasn't until I found out about it very recently. But there's a bulletin that says all the projects. And once in a while, they make it into local newspapers that are actually read by the people here in our town, but they're not local. They're not pushing, they're not sending certified letters like we do when we have a public hearing for some big projects. And as Bob said before, we've had a number of very sizable projects, including the tree harvesting, that drew large crowds. People were very concerned. That was they wouldn't have known about that if they hadn't come before a board, and we require them to send a letter to your neighbors so they can address their concerns at a board like this, at a local place. Someone local has your back. That doesn't happen if the wetlands that are strictly underneath New York State purview goes strictly to New York State. That doesn't happen locally. So I'll leave it at that. Again, I do want to thank you. I know that you guys, that this is part of a broader plan with the, looking forward to the future, and you guys have been having hearings on that. And I want to underscore that. I sincerely appreciate that you guys are doing that. There's not a lot of towns that really push that, and that's a very worthwhile endeavor. And it's something that my generation and the generations after us really care about. I just want to make sure that 20 years from now, I'm not looking back and saying, wow, we relegated some of our regulation of our water to New York State or to the federal government with the Army Corps of Engineers, when we really should have kept it local and made sure that we had that check.
Yeah, Nick, we want you to continue your board, the ECB board, to have that oversight, that review the accountability of the applicants before you, even on the state level. But if they go before your board, absolutely, you should have the authority to at least let them know that you're required to have X, Y, and Z. Turbidity curtains. I know about turbidity curtains. I know about spill kits. Trust me. But these are things that are important. That's going to help protect the wetlands. It's going to help protect not only the applicant, but their neighbors and adjoining parcels and properties and things like that. So you still need to have the teeth in the code to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And we support you in that regard.
Right.
You should have that.
And I think the concern about that when reading through the code is the point 89.4, general regulations. It clearly says in here, moving forward, anything that is in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, you need a permit for that, or the DEC, is not required to come for the Town of Carmel's Environmental Board. And again, that's fine as long as there's somebody in this town who neighbors can go to, talk to about this, and look at the file and understand what's going on, and have someone, an expert, somebody who knows the project, that they can go to and say, I have concerns about them cutting these trees down and me getting the runoff from their property into mine. I have concerns about them, putting their leaders directly into our property divide, and then it's starting to flood my property. That happens. That happens, like somebody cuts down a tree or an old willow, and all of a sudden the neighbor's property is flooded for the forever moving forward.
All right. So Greg, to Nick's point, the points that he brought up. How do we address that? Or Rich, is that something that we could include in this? That there would be language, that there would be some type of oversight if it's on the state level? Or
That's the board, the board's directing us to do that. It's just a public hearing, so we can discuss this.
Okay, all right. All right, so we'll have some time, Nick, we'll have some time as a board to continue discussing this. You've made valid points. You have, and
Thank you very much.
we'll take those under advisement.
Of course.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much again for holding this public hearing.
Appreciate that, Nick, thank you. Ed?
Good evening. Hello? Okay, my name's Ed Barnett. I'm the chairman of the Lake Mahopac Park District, and also I am on the Environmental Conservation Board. I am confused right now about the stream issue. There is a stream that goes into Lake Mahopac. There's a beach there, and it's been closed twice this last year. Taking the streams out of our purview will, out of our purview,
That we've been asking them to correct over and over.
Yeah.
Keep that closer to you, 'cause I can't hear you at home.
okay. So I'm confused. I read in the Mahopac News, I read everything, I read it twice. And as a result, I'm confused right now from what I've heard this evening. Is the streams going to be as they were in the previous iteration of the code? Yes or no? It's real simple.
I think we clarified that earlier, and Greg.
I wasn't here, I apologize, so
yeah.
please,
It's covered.
It's included in the code.
it's definitely covered.
89-4B.
Okay, so it's the same as it was.
It-
We still have that
Yes,
authority. Okay,
Yes, yes.
good.
It's
This
part
is
of-
important.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
The presumption that the state has all these resources that they can throw at us in real time is not appropriate. It does not happen that way at all. We know that. So I just wanted to, it was my concern about the streams, and this board, I will tell you, I've been on boards before. This one is quite terrific. They have tremendous talent on it, and I think the public really is very, very much interested in water quality protection. I think we can all agree on that. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you. Is there anyone else here on the public hearing for Chapter 89, wetlands? Hey, Vince.
Hi, I'm Vince Torano. I'm also on ECB. Take note that it's 4 out of the 5 members are here, okay?
You have a quorum.
Yes. Which has been very difficult to get. I won't repeat what they've said. I think they've made the point, particularly Nick and Bob, have made the points that I think that are important to us. Again, I would also like to thank you. I think you have streamlined it. There is one suggestion I would make in the future, okay? I think you should have involved the ECB more closely in making the changes. I know if I were involved, I would have certainly suggested some things that would have streamlined the process, possibly streamlined the process,
Vince,
okay, which would make things a little quicker.
yeah, Vince, I believe we did that. We sent everything over to the ECB, if I'm not mistaken, for all of the
A
comments. and-
proposal, and when we responded to your proposal, the first proposal, that was the only opportunity we really had, okay? And we responded, and you did respond. I didn't see anything after that, okay, after that first draft that was sent. So if there was, I wasn't aware of it, okay? But going back to what I was saying, I think you should involve them more closely. I think actually working together in order to try to come up, because we do this every meeting, every day in a sense. And I think we have and I think that's been said, that we have a better sense of what's happening. I think there could be some streamlining that could have been done to speed up the process, okay, that wasn't done. I think there's also a couple of things that could have been addressed. One of the things I would mention that should have been addressed, I think, is the fact that many times we have homeowners who come in, okay, and they have these very little projects, and they're forced to go through this process, okay, and I think something should have been done for them so that they don't have to do it. It's really not much of a process, but they fall into the crack where they have to submit for a permit, and there's a certain amount of material that's necessary, and then it becomes very drawn out, particularly for a homeowner who doesn't have a professional. okay, in order to do that. And I think that should have been addressed. That's something we see quite often that happens. Well, all in all, I would agree that there are some shortcomings that's been mentioned. The one about the duplication of permits on the state and local level, that's probably an important one, okay? But again, you did respond to most of the things we first addressed, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And we'll continue to look at what was brought up tonight, what was
Yeah,
comments from tonight.
and if any of you have suggestions, what Vince was just saying regarding the homeowners, you know, just the homeowners, not the builders at all, bring it to us, okay? Yeah,
There's many times when we have a homeowner come to our board, I mean, they look like, you know, deer in headlight.
Yeah.
And we literally walk them through the process. We will show them what to do. You know, if they need a quick sketch or a diagram, we'll assist them with it. I mean, there are things we do to help the homeowner streamline and get through. I mean, we're not here to put up a roadblock. We're here to help them. We're here to help whoever comes before us, because that's what we've been tasked to do. So,
I've actually watched quite a few of your guys' meetings, and I commend you, because I have seen you're very compassionate with the people that aren't understanding the process, and I've seen you guys all huddle and doing, you know, like you said, the sketches and stuff, so I appreciate that, because that's what community, a small community is about.
right. We're here to help
thank
the
you for
process,
that.
not hinder it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can attest to that. Because I just went before your board on, yeah, you were pretty easy on me. All right, thanks. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Come on up at this time. The public hearing is going to remain open. By the way, we're not going to close the public hearing tonight. We're going to keep it open until December 14th, right? We'll continue it.
You need a motion to do that.
We'll continue it for all purposes. If somebody could make it tonight, they'd like to comment on it further, they can do that either by coming here to a meeting or by in writing. You know, if somebody wants to comment in writing, they're free to do that also. Ed?
When do you anticipate the final draft of the language on this, so that it could be
Depends on
reviewed further?
Entirely upon what the board wants to do.
Yeah.
With the draft that's before them after the public hearing, all the comments are in.
Well, what we'll do is, we took your comments from this evening, we made note of that, and
Any other
and any
comments that
other
we may
comments that
get?
we're gonna receive, that we may get from this point forward.
It's going to have to be renoticed. If you're changing any part of it substantively,
Correct.
you're going to have a new notice. But the idea of keeping the hearing open for another couple of weeks here just to get any further comments, because there's obviously some considerations you want to take into account.
So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
after the 14th, a new draft will start to be drawn up.
If it's so
Presumably.
decided that a new draft is.
And nothing would be finalized until probably January, because it's, with the holiday, it's not going to move that fast, and we have to renotice.
Nothing's happening before next year.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
we will send it back to you guys for review.
I'm going to add is that the only thing I would like expedited is the size of the board, because right now, this is it.
Change the law.
So I need to have either give me two additional competent individuals, or
How do you do that?
take the eraser and rub two out.
We're up to us, so you have a quorum when you
Yeah,
meet.
because right now, this is it. You know, if we get into a bus together and crash, we got problems.
Fill it up. My guess is.
Yeah. You're at 7 now?
We're designated for 7. We have.
If you make it
we had
5.
5. We went down to 4, because I think John Starachi went to the
Zoning.
Yeah, but I think we
have somebody.
have somebody. Yeah,
Okay, so now we have 5.
so you'll be back up
You
to
have Julie's
5.
contact information, Bob?
No, I don't have
Can you
any.
get that from Rose?
I'll call Rose
I'll call-
tomorrow.
All right, and you should
Yeah, we don't
probably.
have a meeting this week. I think we have our first meeting next week.
Okay. So you and Julie should probably speak, get together or over the phone or email, just to familiarize her, and maybe you could sit down with her and discuss what the duties and responsibilities are, and
Not a problem. It's a good group of folks that spend their time.
Thanks.
okay.
All right,
All right, thanks, Bob.
Thank
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna keep the public hearing open.
Motion to keep it open till the 14th?
Yeah, motion made by Councilman Lupinacci to keep it open to at least the 14th,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Borelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kenny,
Yes.
before you go to number 2,
Yep.
I just want to tell the public, our audio equipment is being upgraded next year. Its age is, it's dying. Okay, so we're trying to nurse it through until a new system comes. So when, people at home, when you hear it going back and forth, believe me, we're aware of it. And believe me, we're not happy about it. And it's all in the works to be upgraded so it doesn't happen into the new year. Sorry, if you can't hear something.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Rich? Okay.
Can I respectfully ask to just hit my 4 agenda items up first? Or it does the board, it's not good for the board to do that? I'm at the bottom.
You're at the bottom. Okay.
Since I'm already here and pretty
All right,
much
let's
spread
do it.
out, if that's okay with the board?
You should be
fine.
quick anyway.
I'm sorry, Bill,
No, yours are gonna be quick,
He
Rich.
gets paid big bucks to do
All
it.
right,
you know what, maybe I'll move for that.
all right.
The clock's ticking.
Yeah, so
right.
motion to close the special voting meeting?
No. Oh, the special,
Special voting meeting?
no, it was public hearings.
Oh,
Public hearing, we refer to it as a special meeting, so even though we're not closing the public hearing, we're keeping that open,
closing the special meeting.
closing the meeting,
Okay.
we're gonna take action.
She wants to go home, is what
Okay,
she's saying.
she
and She
wants
needs
to-
a motion to go
All
home.
right,
So
I
I'll
make a
that
motion for
So-
Annie to go home.
Who made the motion? Susie made the motion. Jonathan seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Close the special voting meeting.
Oh, great night, thanks.
Special meeting.
Voting.
I need a
And
motion
make
to
a motion
open
to open
the
it.
work session.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by
Second.
Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, now, Rich, let's go to, I'm gonna
7.
move to, Rich, to number 7. Consider request to purchase and install a gen set Carmel Sewer District 2. It's Houston Road North Pump Station. Rich?
So recently, the generator which provides stand-up power at Houston Road has failed. We received quotes from our maintenance contractor, Gentech, broken down at, for a base unit, $17,990, labor, $2,280, and parts, $1,190, total of $21,460. The options were proposed by Gentech were a Class A enclosure, 10-year warranty, and a 7-year warranty at different prices for each of the warranties. The unit failure here was caused primarily by rodent infestation, and we conducted an investigation and verified there was significant rodent damage to this unit. The proposed Class A enclosure will help prevent rodent access. We would expect the new genset to have a serviceable life of 20 years, and the cost for the enclosure therefore would be $215 per year over the course of the life of the unit. So the quote is the same that was given to us recently by the Belden Road Pump South Station. We had MagPro perform a peer evaluation of the unit, and they indicated that it would be cost prohibitive to attempt any repair on the unit. So what we're gonna get here is the same deal we've gotten before. They're going to actually provide us a loaner unit, take the old one out, give us a new one until then, and we respectfully request the board authorize the project as an emergency, as the quoted price of $27,175, which includes the base unit, Class A enclosure, labor, materials, and a 10-year warranty. There are sufficient monies in the Carmel Sewer District 2 budget for this purchase.
Hey, Rich, how old is the one that is being replaced? Do we have an age on that one?
That was the original one from '97.
97?
20 years old, yeah, from the other one.
21 years old. All right, and can I ask a dumb question?
Hopefully I can answer
That
it.
pushed it. 21 years pushed it.
All right, I know that pushed it, but what becomes of the one that they pull out of there? It's just junk? We get rid of it? It's surplus?
Gentech will take care of it, get rid of
That's
it. They'll
included with them,
probably
we're not
use-
scrapping it for the metal. They're taking it.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're
Yeah,
taking
so
it, they'll
they'll take
probably
it,
scrapping it for the metal themselves.
Got it. All right,
All right.
that was my question. All right, you answered it. So let's go on to the next one, Rich.
Okay. So this is for Carmel Water District 2, a lake pit pump. Inframarket operators from Carmel Water District 2 have advised the engineering department
$200.
that one of the lake pit pumps used to supply water to the water treatment plant has failed. Pump number 2 was replaced in 2015. Pump number 1 is being considered for replacement as is approximately 30 years old. These pumps, when new, function and operate at approximately 1,000 GPM each. However, due to the age of pump 1, it now operates at about half its GPM range. During times of normal demand, it's okay, it can keep up with the demand. However, during times of high demand, additional pumps are needed, and while able to keep up with high demand, it does not do so efficiently. Infomark recommended the purchase and install of a new pit pump, and they have received quotes from 3 different vendors: $10,200 from Coaster Associates, $11,900 from Empire State Motors, and $13,762 from Patterson Supply, with an installation cost is $1,400. If we use the lowest one from Coaster, the total cost for purchase and installation of the lake pit pump is $10,600. They've indicated, Infomark has indicated the new pump has a life expectancy of about 10 to 15 years. We spoke with the controller, and she's indicated there are sufficient funds in the budget to do this work. And we recommend that, or we request that the board authorize the purchase and install of this pump from Coaster Associates at $10,200, and for Infomark to install at $1,400 for a total cost of $10,600.
Okay, great, thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Any questions,
$11,600,
comments, concerns on this item?
No.
No, all right.
$11,600.
All right, Rich, let's go on to number 9. That's to consider request to renew agreement for the planning consultant service.
Town Board, at its annual organizational meeting, has engaged the professional services of Clear Consulting to provide planning consulting services to the planning board. This department requested that Clear Consulting provide a proposal for the continuation of this service, and Clear Consultant has provided one as a task for services in 2019. Clear Consulting has been performing this professional service adequately for the town for 20 years, from 1997 to 2005, and from 2007 to present. There was an email from Vice Chair Papera recommending that they continue using Clear Consulting. Therefore, we recommend the town board consider retaining Clear Consulting. There is a line item budget in the 2019 budget for this, and funding is available.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich.
I'm good with this one. Everybody else, okay? All right, let's go to number 10. Consider request to authorize 1-year extension of agreement for the videotaping of town administrative board meetings.
This one, Kenny, I want to ask for, I want an exact time frame on when this is getting fixed.
This is exactly what you just said. It's the video for
Okay,
this room.
before we extend it, I want a precise time frame of when everything's being fixed.
Annie
The public
may
doesn't have to
be, you
deal
may
with
be
this.
able to,
Ann can help out with
and you may be able to help answer all this.
Do you want to come over here, and there's a better microphone?
Kenny,
do you
want to add impacts? Has to work on the master plan with us and additional
Last week, the supervisor and Rob Barra and myself met with the gentleman, New York Audio and Video, who put in the smart TVs in the town hall. And they do refurbishing and renovations of video rooms. They came in, they're going to help us prepare the RFP, which is being done this week as we speak. We're going to have it for legal counsel to review within the next week, and it'll probably be on the next work session, hopefully, to go out for the RFPs. And at that point, once the RFPs go out, it'll probably go out to about a list of 8 vendors, and we should come back, and we will start probably the process in 2019.
Just so the public knows. So hopefully
Yes.
within 90 days,
Oh,
we're going to have this fixed.
it's been addressed, and it's been, the wheels have been going forward with it.
Because we're all getting, comments.
Yeah. Okay, Ann, thank you. Thanks.
We struggle in this room to hear it at times, not
Yeah.
just on TV, but in
Oh,
this
yeah.
room we struggle as it goes up and down.
So respectfully to the board members, the 2 mutually exclusive agenda items here, right? So one is what Councilman Barilli was talking about, which is the upgrade of the system, which is what Ann just spoke about. What's here in front of you now is just a renewal for the actual recording of the meeting. So while the person who, Alaska Productions is part of the discussions with this, they're mutually exclusive, proposals, RFPs, contracts, right? So So in 2015, the engineering department solicited proposals for maintenance and recordings of meetings. The proposal identified that the contract would be effective for 2 years, 2016 and 2017, with the town of Carmel having unilateral options to renew the contract for up to 2 more years or any portion thereof for 2018 and 2019. Aleska Productions at that time was the lowest responsible proposer, and the board approved him way back when in May of 2015. The cost for the recording of the meetings in 2019 is identified as $16,250. Aleska Productions has performed to the satisfaction of the engineering department. This department has contacted Aleska Productions to ascertain if they're interested in continuing. They responded that they would like to do that. Therefore, the engineering department recommends that this contract be renewed for 1 more year. The cost of this service is included in 2019's budget. Just so the board knows, this will be going out to bid again next year for the service of recording it. So for starting in 2020, we'll have to let something out next year for this.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Rich.
you for
Thanks,
letting
Rich.
me, thank you for letting me jump the line.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, now we're gonna go back up to number 1 is to consider additions or deletions to the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. So I have a correspondence here from the Secretary Gabe Rivera of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. Mahopac Fire Department has added the following persons to our rolls. We respectfully request to have them added: Richard Biestra, Ashley Belkovich, Sarah Citarella, Christina Lenglitz, Kayla Mancusi, Abigail Mastropietro, and John Nickershire. They're requesting that they be added to the rolls of the Mahopac Fire Department. The Mahopac Fire Department also respectfully request to have the following persons removed from the rolls of the Mahopac Fire Department: John Coles, Rachel Fleischer, and Jennifer Peterson. Any questions, comments about the Mahopac Fire Department's requests? If
No,
not, we're going to go on.
As a parent of 3 daughters, I'm really happy to see 5 out of the 7 are ladies.
Yeah, I agree, Mike.
And I'm very happy to see one of them.
Yeah, and the ladies that they do have on the rolls currently are extremely active. They cover EMS calls, fire calls, they do everything.
I
They're
remember
great.
one of them when they were born.
How do you feel about that?
She was 1.5 pounds,
Really?
2 pounds.
Wow.
My partner's wedding ring went around her leg. Yeah, that brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mike. Okay, I think it brought a smile to all of our faces. That's great. Thanks. All right, next is number 2, William Schilling Esquire. Bill, thanks for being here. This is consider request for return to original lot lines, Roger and Leanna Nault. Their address is 2-6 Rogers Lane in Carmel, New York. Welcome, Bill.
Give you a visual. I might.
Thanks, Bill.
We have all of them, Bill.
Well, I'm just going to give you something.
That's this one? And this one? You just got to be careful with that microphone, it's horrible.
Doesn't have it on, though. Right now, it doesn't.
Now it doesn't.
Right.
Going to be brief, but am I on?
Can't hear.
Sorry, Bill.
It's okay.
I just had to clarify something.
It's all right.
All right.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah.
I was
show's
not
tested a lot.
expecting this to be a hearing per se. I thought it was going to be decided in executive session based on the paperwork I submitted, but I'm happy to be very brief and hopefully right to the point as to what we're trying to do. The property is 2-6 Belden Road, and it consists of 4 residences and a garage on one lot. That's the first diagram I showed, which is the tax map. And on that blank tax map are 4 buildings. 4 residences and a garage. The second visual I showed you was what it was prior to a 1985 deed, which changed everything. There were 4 houses on 3 lots. One of the lots had a main house and a cottage. This was done in 1985. This changed. The 4-lot subdivision, if you will, de facto subdivision, existed in the 40s and the 50s, and was created in the 40s and 50s and existed till 1985 when the owner of the complex passed on, leaving the work to his widow. And his widow lamented, the story goes, of having to pay all these taxes all the time, and she went and visited Robert Smith, who you may remember, and Bob Smith simply transferred by deed all this property into 1 lot. There was no subdivision approval, there was no town approval. It's beyond dispute that that act was an illegal act. It was an act not justified by the town, should not have been legally recognized, but was. So after 1985, what you have is 4 residences and a garage on 1 lot. If you ever took a drive by there, you would see that there are 4 houses with 4 separate driveways, with 4 lawns, if you will, fencing. They're very stereotypical subdivision, but in fact, they all exist on 1 lot. In 2016, my client, Roger Nault, started a process of trying to return to the original lot lines, and he consulted with Rob Vera. This subdivision is serviced water by 1 main line, and it goes from 1 house to another. There's 1 bill generated for the 4 houses. And Mr. Nault agreed with Rob Vera informally that he would create a separate line with a separate tap and service for each house. The cost of that would be somewhere in the amount of about $60,000. This would bring the town into compliance with 15116, which provides that there shall be a separate tap and a separate service for each house. It would also result in a return to legitimacy, a return to normalcy, where instead of 4 lots or 4 houses on 1 lot, there'd be 4 houses on 3 lots, which is the way it was prior to 1985. It would bring you more in keeping with the zoning. Your zoning provides on each lot there'll be only 1 dwelling. We're close, we're not in compliance. It would result in more revenue to the town. There would be now 3 different assessments as opposed to 1. It would be in keeping with town code in that regard as well. In 2017, I petitioned the Zoning Board of Appeals, and while they agreed that it was an illegal deed, they thought it appropriate to return it to the Planning Board, to which I say it's not necessary. And the reason it's not necessary, and it's important that I make this point, is that 268 of your town law envisions this exact circumstance. It's codified in 268 town law, in which it says, in a case where land is divided illegally, the town has the right to do a lot of things, one of which is to undo or nullify the illegal act. And so what we're asking you to do is what 268 of the town law envisions you can do, and I submit you should do, is when you see an illegal act, to simply rescind it or to nullify it. If the town took the action pursuant to 268 town law, the deed would be nullified and it would return to the original structure, substructure that existed prior to 1985. That 1985 and prior to was a legal, non-conforming subdivision. All the lots were created legally by deed prior to subdivision requirements. So again, this is unique and this is unusual. I've never had anything like this before, but I find it compelling, and I hope you do, that 268 of the town law envisions this very, very act where if somebody tries to cut their property in half or enlarge their property without town approval, this board has the right, pursuant to 268, to nullify that which was illegal and invalid. So I'm asking the town to commence an action, we would accept service, to nullify that which everyone will acknowledge was illegal. The deed in putting 4 houses into one lot was clearly without town approval, and returning it to its original structure.
Okay.
All right.
Can,
All right, is there any,
yeah, Ken.
okay, go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I'm just bothered by a couple of things. You say it was done 30 years ago illegally,
Yeah.
but you want us to fix it.
I want you to enforce your code. I want you to enforce an act that was in defiance and in violation of your code, yeah.
30 years ago.
The law says there are no latches against the town for illegality.
And the advantage you're saying to the town is we get 4 water meters instead of 1, and a fire hydrant. I mean, does your client realize he'd have to pay about 30 years of back O&M on each one?
Back what?
Excuse me?
Does my client realize he has to do what?
Pay 30 years back on the O&M,
I don't know what O&M is.
operating and maintenance on the water system.
Well, the water system was legally created at a time prior to the enactment of the regulations, so I don't believe that's accurate.
I think it's in it.
I don't know.
I
And then-
might
and then you
want
have it
to
going back.
mention that Rob Vera,
You want to I don't care what Rob Vera said.
well, I
The,
care to tell you that
this
Rob
is-
Vera thinks it's an appropriate action for the town of Carmel to take.
So
And-
that's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But you want to do 3 subdivisions, which gives you a building lot.
I don't want to do 3 subdivisions.
You want to do four lots versus the 1. You have 1 now. and you
And
want
prior
turn
to
it back
85, there
4.
were 4. Uh-huh.
Okay. So it is tremendous financial benefit to your client. And he picks up a building lot that is not buildable now under the current, the way it's
If
existing.
the illegal action had not taken, these lots would exist.
We didn't do the illegal action,
Pardon me?
but we didn't do the
But you
illegal.
can correct it under 268 of the town law.
But you want us to pay for something your
Well,
client's
well-
attorney did 30 years ago.
My client will pay for the legal costs incurred in nullifying the illegal action.
So your client will reimburse the town for their expenses?
Yes.
I don't know, I'd have to really, this is really, I mean, we're picking up 20% in taxes. It's existing for 30 years on 1 water main. So basically, it's telling us, oh, we'll give you 4 meters. We pick up 20% in revenue on taxes, and you get,
You'll bring the water system into compliance.
it doesn't help.
Instead of one
it just helps
assessment,
these-
there'll be...
It helps the
I
existing
wasn't
homeowners.
finished.
Doesn't help us, it helps them.
Oh, I think it does. I think it'll increase the tax revenues dramatically.
I look at it, somebody who's, their attorney made a mistake 30 years ago,
He made an illegal act.
and now you want,
And now the town
town to
should
give you-
correct the illegal act and nullify
Or-
it as is envisioned in 268 of the town law.
but now you want us 30 years later to give you 3 separate parcels that he could sell individually as homes and a building lot.
The truth of it is, Mike, he can't sell this now. He's a 78-year-old man, he's in a situation, and so you're correct. It would be to my client's advantage. What I'm asking you to do is, 1, acknowledge the fact that that deed transfer was illegal, and number 2, go back to the subdivision having nullified the illegal act. That's all I'm asking you to
Were all
do.
these lots in the same name back 30 years ago?
Yes.
I dispute the fact of it being illegal.
It's of course illegal. You can't merge and subdivide property without town approval in 1985.
I've seen adjacent lots merged by tax assessors
That's statutory.
throughout the last 20 years.
63.8
I've
says
had it
that
done
you
myself.
can't, 63.8 of your code says that you cannot create subdivision without town approval. That's what this did. This created a lot that wasn't ratified by the town.
Are you telling me, though, that I've never seen two adjacent lots in the same name combined by a town or a tax assessor?
If there's a merger clause, it's appropriate. If there is, there's not.
Because I've seen it.
If there's a merger clause, I've seen it too. Can't
I've
do it
seen a lot of
without-
it back then with
They
pre-existing
can do it
lots.
voluntarily, or it can be done by statute if the merger provisions are met.
Bill, I just have a quick question. Why did the owner, I'm assuming it's a gentleman, why did he wait so long to bring this forward?
I think that it's really just a question of, he's to the point where he had a disabling heart attack about 2 years ago. He wants to get his estate in order, and he realizes that this is an albatross. And he also realizes that he was wronged by an attorney's bad advice. What we're asking you folks to do is to acknowledge that this was unquestionably an illegal act. Unquestionably, it created a subdivision without town approval. And if you just nullify, as is envisioned in 268 of the town law, the subdivision as it was before will just be returned. That's all we're asking you to take notice of the fact it was inappropriate back in '85.
How many years ago did your client approach Rob Vara or you and sit down and talk with him?
He approached Rob Vera in 2016.
2016? Okay. I just was wondering if it was years ago.
Well, we have a memo. The memo from Rob is June 21st, 2017.
Before the ZBA.
What's that?
The matter came to the ZBA.
Yeah.
And I think Rob wrote an
Yeah.
informational memo
Yes, yeah.
to the zoning board prior to the matter being on the for hearing that night.
Why did he? I don't know. Bill, who approached Rob Vera? Did you or your client?
My client.
Okay. And based on that discussion, the conversations that he had with Rob Vera, that's what prompted this to be written?
Correct. And Vera opined
I'd be
that
curious what the neighbors think of this.
we had a zoning board meeting and no one appeared in opposition. There would be no change to the neighborhood. There's no functional change. There would be no neighborhood effect.
You're creating a
Everything
building
would-
lot.
Pardon me?
You're creating a building lot.
We're going back to a lot that was legally created prior to code.
I actually do have a question to clarify that, and Mike, because it looks like I'm looking at two different surveys that were given in regards to.
The line's missing, Jonathan. Me and
Correct,
John just
exactly.
figured
And
it
that's,
out.
and that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. So
Yeah, the
originally, I
line's
thought we were
missing.
looking at 3 lots, 2 with 1 structure, 1 with 2 structures, and then a 4th lot that was vacant. That was the easterlymost lot.
Because
There was a
he
line
left
there,
this line out.
looked like it was supposed to continue over. But on the one that you just handed us, that line now is gone, even though the measurement's still there as the corner mark out for that easterlymost building.
The one before you is the one that existed prior to code.
So this one that I had earlier tonight as backup that shows a vacant lot is not correct?
You're correct.
Okay, the one that has 3 lots all built out, there are no vacant lots that you are looking to get done?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
John?
So you're returning 3 lots, not 4?
There are 3 lots with 4 structures.
One lot has 1 house or
3 lots,
structure.
4
You're
structures.
not, the first one that shows 4 lots, you're looking for 3 lots. So you're not creating a building lot.
That first one is
That's
gone, right,
correct.
that's what I'm trying to.
We're not creating a
yeah.
building lot.
Which one's gone?
So,
This one's gone.
okay, so if you take off
Was-
this
was-
mark
was
here.
that lot
That
merged?
mark is gone,
That's gone.
and now he's
Well,
looking to get
because
that
the tax
whole
map
thing.
shows it was
Yeah.
4
You
lots.
see here, this line right here is gone.
That's gone.
That line here is gone,
Yep.
Clarify that.
and now it's 1 lot there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's a survey done by Odell.
Yep.
Well, it's a survey done by Odell, but it shows a, why does it show that?
Missing?
But
And
you're
on
saying that this
it-
one is gone.
And
This
this one,
line shouldn't be here.
I'm saying it was corrected.
my question is, when was this merged?
Right there.
Well, that's,
Was
I'm,
there
yeah, I
ever a
mean,
4th
what
lot?
happened in 84?
Was there ever a 4th lot, or was it always 3?
I'm trying to figure out why.
Why was that?
I'd like to see
Order on the survey?
I'd like to see the
Okay,
tax map
say that.
Yeah.
from 84.
Yeah, Greg, if you
Yeah.
could get us more info on the previous stuff to 84?
Because here's one map that shows 4 lots.
Right.
He's saying 3 lots, no building lot, so obviously, something's wrong, and I still say these 2 were merged back in the day.
That might be true, but I do know that the configuration recognized by the tax map prior to '85 was 3. 3 lots.
I'm not going to argue with you.
So Bill, what you're asking, and I just want to clarify this, there's the 3 lots, one with 1 house, one with 2 houses, one with 1 house. And the owner will put, and he knows we're getting new water meters in also.
Yes.
That he will, all 4 houses will have to get the new water meters.
Yes.
But there's line going into 1, so he's going to pay for the other 3 houses to have the
For the
water
connections, yes, and,
connected.
right, and for the taps to be separate and separately billed.
Okay, all right. Now, if this is agreed upon, Greg, would all of this be done before would all of this be written up before we approve this? Because what I don't want to happen is we approve it and then they say, no, we're not going to do it.
If the board is inclined to take action on it at all, there will be an authorizing resolution to commence the 268 proceeding, Town Law 268 proceeding, for an express purpose. And the express purpose is to return to the original lot lines, which is the reinstatement of an X number of lots, which is 3, and you could reference whatever historical data to tie it to those 3 lots, so that you're sure that that's the relief that's being sought, and that's what would be
And then you
ultimately
can,
granted.
and then
At
you
no
can put the.
cost to the town.
And a provision for reimbursement of the cost as well.
Right, and then you can put the conditions on it that they must do the water meters, the lines and stuff like that, correct?
You can,
At the cost
Yeah.
of the property owner.
that's
Bill,
going to be theirs anyway.
I have a question regarding, Rogers Lane is a private road.
Yes,
And you're proposing, or your client is proposing, to install a 6-inch water main on Rogers Lane, and install a fire hydrant at the end of
at the
Rogers
base,
Lane.
yes.
And off of the 6-inch water main, the service lines for the individual homes
A
will come off
tap
that
and a
line.
service line would service each individual house, correct.
Okay, and this is more of a question, I guess, for Greg. Greg, being that Rogers Lane is a private road, can town utilities be installed on subsurface on a private road?
You'd have to take dedication of the facilities, of the physical facilities. We've done that before. It creates logistical, and you have to have an easement to do maintenance on it,
You said you need an easement?
and actually dedicate the physical pipes. We've done it on other, in
Not the
transmission
roads,
system.
but the pipes.
Right, the actual,
Right.
and an easement to go in there, do maintenance, repair, and replacement as we
You
need
got to hope they own the whole road.
Right, right. And I would,
They'd have to
well,
have
the
the
only
authority
other
to
thing
grant
that
easement.
I would like to see is a maintenance agreement.
Yeah, it's good.
Some
They
type
have
of
to
written
own the whole
maintenance
road.
agreement with the town, the property owner in the town, that he's going to continue to maintain the road, the bed of the roadway and the utilities.
All of the individual owners
Right.
would have to maintain, that's fine. Uh-huh.
Right.
And I wouldn't mind if that was put in as a
Okay,
condition.
so you would, okay. I'd like to see that in there, Greg.
I think probably what would end up happening in the circumstance, if you were inclined to authorize the action, and the applicant here would decline to accept service, then you're going to authorize a resolution of that would involve a default on the proceeding of some sort, consent to the relief, the restoration of the 3 lots, the dedication of the facilities, the authority to grant an easement for the maintenance and repair of the facilities in perpetuity, and that would be the next step. So it would be a 2-step process. And I think that's what I would envision.
One other
we
thing I
need,
want to add in.
All right, yeah.
Will we need an updated survey? Just because I'm looking at the one that you did just provide to us, and it still has the annotation of 4 separate lots, even though that lot line's not there. One says vacant. Do we just need an updated survey to combine those 2 lots on the back end?
I would provide that for
But
you.
Okay.
what's being stated there, I think, is that the 2 lots there, there's a surveyor's error there, that it never was a 4 lot. So we'll have to
I want to see
clarify
a
that.
I want to see a
okay?
I want
So
to see
that
the tax map. from
Returning
back
to
then.
original lines only creates 3.
Okay, so you'll get us all the paperwork that'll substantiate the
Whatever you'd like
claim
in
of
that
that?
regard,
Okay.
And-
Thank you.
And then Greg, who would find out if the 3 houses, not the one, the 3 houses would do the O&M, like what Mike was talking about?
You'd have to make a determination as to what's been paid for capital and O&M on the district charges, because there's sewer and water, and make a determination as to what the delta is, to what 3 lots would be responsible for. Because
Okay.
obviously, they're in the districts.
Right.
There has been payments for capital and O&M on the sewer to collection system and the plant, and whatever water
Right.
jobs have been done, but it hasn't been apportioned over 4 residences.
That has to be
Apportioned over one.
weighed with your client, because you made a comment before that I really disagree with. You said this property is not marketable. Everything's marketable.
Mike, I don't know many people looking to buy 4 houses in one swoop. I really don't. I think that's unreasonable for you to say.
I owned one for years on Hill Street.
You're not the average
And
consumer,
I sold it,
Mike.
and I sold it to a person that lives there.
Mike, let me ask you this. Is it easier to sell one house at a time, or is it easier to sell?
Well, no, I'm not finished, Bill.
What?
Don't tell me it's not marketable.
I'll tell you what I think is correct, Michael.
Okay.
Don't tell me what to say, please.
Well, everything's marketable.
It's not, it might be marketable to some, but not to many. If I'm a seller, do you think it would be easier for me to sell a property with one lot, or with one house, or with 4? Of course it's difficult to market.
Bill, are the 4 homes that are there now, are they all connected to the town sewer system?
Yes.
They have access to it, or they are connected?
My thinking is that they are, yes. They're connected to water and the sewer.
Separately?
They have on-lot pump
Separately?
stations. They have on-lot pump stations
Yes.
that pump out.
There's a
and-
pump station.
Yeah.
There's only one pump station for the 4 houses.
For the 4 houses?
So if you want the 3 lots to be legal,
Yeah.
they have to have their own individual sewer tie-ins.
But do they have access, will these 4 homes have access to the sewer main?
Yeah, they will.
I know the water, Ken, I don't know.
I would
the
think so
sewer.
if they have a pump pit going to it.
I'm telling you, from personal experience, I know that they do, okay? From 30 years ago, I was involved in the design. My recollection is those pump stations were made to handle 2 houses apiece. There should be 2 if there's 4 residences, but I don't know what was actually installed. It was designed for 1 pump station to handle 2 single-family residences. One way or the other, they're going to have to be connected if they're not. But my understanding is they are, and there is a connector that goes down what was known as Rogers Lane or Nault Road, and it connects to Belden.
3 water
Or the-
hookups,
or
3
they-
sewer hookups.
Going to need 3 sewer hookups,
Yeah,
right?
the two houses on one lot
Right.
can utilize a
Right.
pump.
Yep,
But there has to be 3 individual, everything has to be separated.
all right.
It's an
They
expensive proposition.
understand that, Bill, that they're all going to have to be separated, they're all going to have individual, other than the 2 that are on one lot, they're all going to have individual tie-ins to the
Septic
sewer,
system.
septic, yeah, to sewer.
I think they're all on it.
I'll be honest, Kenny, I know the water, is it in the sewer? I honestly don't know the answer to that.
It is in the district. It was designed for those stations in, like 1993. And they all 4 of those residences, everything on that road, because of its gradient below Belden, and Belden had the main, the gravity main, they were pumping up there, and there were these small individual on-lot systems rather than having backlot systems across the properties. That's easily verifiable, but that's my
I can
recollection.
verify
I'm
that, yeah.
99% sure that that's what happened.
Okay.
So they're pumped up, currently, it's pumped up to the main on Belden Road.
It's below.
Got-
It actually,
Well, it's
it
below,
pitches
but
away.
it's-
Right,
right,
so
okay.
there's not a gravity main that comes down there.
Maybe, can you find out, Bill?
I will, yeah.
All right, all right, appreciate that.
2-inch
And the capital, all the capital's up to date, the water capital, sewer capital, everything is,
My understanding it was, I know that when
okay,
Mr. Knoll visited Vera, that was one of the questions he
okay.
asked.
All right, yeah, because they would have to be up to date on all of that. And Mary Ann can confirm
Yeah.
that. All right, okay,
Okay?
all right. Any other questions, Jonathan? Any other questions for Mr. Schilling? Mike, John? Greg?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
all right.
Bill.
Nice
Thank you,
holiday,
thank you,
everybody.
Bill. Yeah, you too. Yep, thanks for being here. Okay. Number three and 4 are Mary Ann Maxwell, the town controller. Hey, Mary Ann. So 3 is to consider request to award a bid for 2 server equipment, software UPS equipment, plus installation and setup, decommission of old service to Sullivan Data, Inc. Hey, Mary Ann.
Good evening. Yes, the attached bid was received and open on November 20th, 2018. Bid specifications were sent to 10 potential bidders by the Office of the Town Clerk. However, only 1 bid was received, and that was from Sullivan Data. The bid received is as follows. Server equipment was $25,927.46. That is for two servers. Server software is $9,569.39, and the UPS equipment is $196.41. $9,000 for Sullivan Data Services, installation, setup, and decommission of the old servers is exempt under monetary thresholds because it's professional services, so that's an additional cost on top of the equipment and the software. The attached spreadsheet shows that the IT budget does have enough funding to award this to Sullivan Data, so I'm recommending that the board authorize the project to Sullivan Data.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mary Ann. Any questions or comments for Mary Ann on this one?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Yeah.
All right, next is to consider the 2018 delinquent water and sewer re-levy on the 2019 town and county taxes.
Yes, I come to the board every year around this time. This is the delinquent water and sewer. 237,000 is delinquent in the water districts for the consumption costs. These are bills that are over 90 days outstanding. So we send reminder bills to these residents several times throughout the year, and this is what's still outstanding. I will update the board. This is as of November 26th, so I will get another update before the resolution is passed next week, because we don't want to levy something comes in. So I've been in touch with Kathleen Kraus, who receives the payments, and if anything comes in, she's processing it right away, so that we don't levy it on top of, accepting a payment. So that's that. I also included here a $1,000 property maintenance cleanup that has not been paid. I talked to Greg about this yesterday, and he says that we could levy this as well, because an affidavit was filed and the resolution was passed. So we could levy this $1,000 on the town and county tax bill in January to get that paid.
That's good.
So,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
It's the first time we're doing this, including that, but, I think it's, at least we'll get the money
Yeah.
for that as well. And
absolutely.
then the out-of-district sewer and water costs as well would be levied if they're not paid by next Wednesday.
Okay.
I have one question, and it's more a question that's going to hopefully come across as a public announcement. Hypothetical.
Yes.
Charlie in Water District 14 has a $500 bill that Charlie hasn't been paying.
Right,
We send it to the county.
yes.
The county pays the town $500 that we are owed. And then the county puts it on the county bill.
Correct.
And then Charlie actually pays it when he pays the county bill, plus a 10%
Plus 10%.
fee.
Correct.
So my point as a public service, when these people get this, pay it, because you think you're not paying it, but you actually are paying it plus 10% in 2019.
And we actually pay we actually charge 10%.
If you pay your county taxes.
Yeah.
Hopefully
No, but
you're
I'm
paying your
saying-
county taxes.
But we actually, the penalties on here are substantial. Because we send the water bills out, and if they don't pay, it's 10%, and then it accumulates, that 10% accumulates. So you can see, in Water District 2, the penalty is, $1,200 when the delinquent water is $7,000.
Yeah.
It's because that keeps accumulating, that 10%.
Well, hopefully, once we get the water meters installed, this will go down dramatically, because I do know there's quite a few people who don't get to their water meters. They just can't.
Yeah,
So
but
they
that-
don't pay
it's
their bills.
estimated, but they
I-
get an
They
still
estimated
have to pay
bill.
it.
I know, but
And
they
they
don't
still
pay
are
their
paying
bill
it in their
because they
county
don't
bill.
believe that it's
They
right.
get the estimate,
I know.
and they just,
Yeah. Yeah.
some people just assume to just pay it on their taxes and never, ever write a check to the town of Carmel for
But
the
it's
water bill.
costing them
But it's
10%.
costing them a lot of money to do that. Their
Yeah.
taxes would go down if they would pay their water bills twice a year.
Marianne, maybe on our next water bill thing, we can kind of say, do you realize if you don't pay this, it's going to cost you a lot more money?
I
You
have,
know,
we
so- I
have,
know.
I mean, we
So-
have. I
something
mean,
really like,
not in those
boom.
exact words, but we have said that,
And
you
maybe
know.
just simplify it.
Or
Yo,
they can give me,
kind of what he
they can give
said.
me $550 and I'll pay their $500 tax bill.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, like, if they don't pay it,
I would,
you know, the other thing,
I would have been remiss if they weren't.
If they weren't there, yeah, so I won.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Marianne.
Thanks, Marianne.
so I will get the board an updated list by the voting meeting next week. It probably will be that, you know, the last minute, but, because we want to make sure we get every payment in, so.
Put it off 2 weeks.
No,
Okay,
I'll do it,
thanks.
Mike.
No, I know, I have to get it to the county. I have to get it to the county by the 5th,
Wait a minute.
because in order for it to be included on the, yeah,
No,
thank you.
no, but it's,
So much in penalty.
all right, the next two are Highway Superintendent Mike Simone.
Well, he's not here, Ken.
He's not
Where
here.
am I?
Well, he's requesting to,
Oh, he might be, is he outside?
is Mike,
Oh, is that an affair? Is that a county affair?
okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to, I'll handle these two for Mike then, since he wasn't able to make it. First one is consider request to award bids for miscellaneous highway supplies and materials. I have a memo from Mike. I am recommending the following bids be awarded as follows, and there's a bunch of bids on here. It's all winter materials, sugar beet juice, wash sand, winter mix, guide rail, galvanized guide rail, Corton, it's corrugated beam rail, timber, ironwood, et cetera, et cetera. So these are bids that, they went out to bid on these particular items, and these are the results of the bids, and he's recommending that we award the bids. Everybody okay with these bids that the highway superintendent's recommending? I didn't read everyone off with the prices, I don't think we need to do that.
I looked at them, they were all fine, Ken.
They're all good? Okay.
Some of them off the state bid anyway, so
They're all
they're all standard.
Yeah.
standard stuff.
Yeah, okay. All right, so the next one is also from the highway superintendent. He's requesting to dispose of equipment. I'm requesting the authorization to dispose of the following: a 2007 Chevy Silverado with the following VIN: 1GBJK 34D53E 135487. Any questions, comments on this particular one? I think this vehicle was involved in an accident recently.
Yeah.
It was totaled, and from what my understanding is, we've received payment from the insurance company of the insured that struck the vehicle for $9,500, I believe the amount was for that particular truck. We've received that, and now Mike would like to dispose of the vehicle. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? The highway superintendent is going to come in within the next 2 or 3 weeks to address the board with respect to replacing this vehicle. He's not ready for it yet, but he wants to speak to the board about the process and what he's looking for to replace it with. All right? Any other questions, comments about any of the items that we just covered? Nope, there being none. So that concludes the agenda items for this evening's Town Board work session. Is there anybody here that wants to come up and comment just on the agenda items that we covered this evening? Come on up. Okay, there being none, is there anyone here for open forum, new business portion of the meeting? We can come up and address the board on any new business items this evening. It's 3 minutes to address the board on that. Is there anybody here for that? No? Okay. All right.
Do you have announcements?
I do. Yeah, I do have a few announcements, if the board wants to do some of these announcements with me. I do. I have the...
One with
yeah.
the,
All right. John, do you want to do this one?
do you have
Suzie?
the Putnam Arts Council?
Suzie, you could do that one. Nope, the Arts Council...
All right, I'll do Putnam Arts Council as well.
Oh, here, John. Maybe you want to use this one?
Do you want me to read all of those?
Talk to the board about this real quick.
Sure. Is that one better for you?
It's a seminar.
We've got the
She wants to attend with the
I
Oh, yeah,
forgot to
yeah.
mention, I
Yeah,
talked to you about this earlier, Kenny, today.
Yep. go ahead.
Tomorrow, there is a KVS focus group that I would like to attend with Michelle and Michelle. It's at the Village of Mount Kisco. So there's no cost to the town, but I'm just, letting you guys know that I would like to attend this. There's a couple things that they're going to discuss, and it's basically going to be like the future of KVS, where it's going to go. It's, so,
I was gonna say, Marianne, aren't we not using KVS?
no, we're using KVS still. Yeah. Well, KVS was bought out by Acela, so that's who we're using.
Oh, that's probably
Yes,
what I'm
yes.
thinking, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but KVS has streamlined their their product a little bit, so they want to go over that. They're working, the reason I want to bring Michelle Russell as well is KVS is working with National Meter Services to, to begin the process of installing the new meters. So KVS is going to be, involved with that, and then Michelle Russell should kind of be involved in that process as well, so.
Who's going to be up at your office, though, if all three are going?
Eileen and Barbara are going to be up there from 10
Okay.
to 2, so they're going to keep an eye on the office.
All right, good.
So I've talked to Kenny about that as well, so.
All right,
And,
perfect.
Lori will transfer the phones to the accounting office, and they'll cover it, so.
All right,
Yeah, I
good.
think it's great that you guys are going.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we utilize KVS,
Right.
Learn.
the most,
Learning more.
so.
Yeah.
We'll bring everything back and let you guys know what's going on.
All right, good.
Okay.
Sorry,
All
sorry I
right.
didn't get this to you earlier, but.
It's all right.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we do have some announcements for the community, and we'll start with John.
Sure. I'm reading an announcement for the Hamlet of the Carmel Civic Association. That's up near 52, Hamlet of Carmel. Their website, www.carmelcivicassoc.org. So it's one word, carmelcivicassoc.org. You can find all this information, or you can go on Facebook /HCCA.Carmel. And what this is here is that this Saturday, December 1st, they're going to have the Holiday on the Lakes. At 8 o'clock, there'll be a pancake breakfast at the Carmel Firehouse. 11 o'clock, there'll be readings, holiday story readings at Reed Memorial Library. 3 o'clock, there'll be lunches and snacks and activities in the Carmel High School cafeteria. 4 o'clock at the Cornerstone Park, there'll be some activities right there in Cornerstone Park, 52 Fair Street. 5:30, we have live band on Glenida Avenue. 6:15 on Route 52, you have the Santa Stroll. At 6:30, it is, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, it is my favorite parade in all of the whole year. It's the Holiday of Lights parade on 52. Just a great parade. And then at 7:45, there is tree lighting. Unfortunately, I'm out of town on December 1st, so I'm going to miss it, the first one in 6 years.
I was just saying, me too.
But this is a great event for the family. And then on December 4th, you have the annual menorah lighting. Again, that's Tuesday, December 4th at 5 o'clock up on Lake Glenida. And then you have on December 9th, which is a Sunday, at 10 o'clock, you have Breakfast with Santa Claus at the Carmel Town Recreation and Parks. And then on December 18th at 4:30, you have Reed Memorial Library Incredible Edible Holiday Crafts. It looks like you're making cookies there, or decorating cookies. Children, first grade and up, you please register. So you have to call the library at 845-225-2439. Great events happening in the hamlet of Carmel, starting this Saturday and running on through until Christmas. Again,
same one.
December 1st, you guys will not be disappointed if you go up to the hamlet on the 1st and see that parade and all of the other activities.
Very true. Looks beautiful. John, the Chamber of Commerce wanted me to read this. It's piggybacking on what you just read.
Great.
This is from the Mahopac Carmel Chamber of Commerce. One town, one community, one holiday parade. The Greater Mahopac Carmel Chamber of Commerce is excited to announce we will be participating in the Holiday on the Lake Parade on December 1st, 2018. We have a trailer and a truck to enter the parade. We are looking for volunteers to decorate the float on Friday, November 30th at 5 p.m. Please contact Charlie Melchner Jr. at charliemelchner@gmail.com. charliemelchner@gmail.com. If you want further information or to let them know that you'll participate in decorating the float that'll be in the December 1st parade that John just mentioned up in the hamlet of Carmel.
Yep, and then the Putnam Arts Council is going to have their Crafts in the Gallery Handmade with Love starting Saturday, September 8th through Friday, December 21st. A member preview is Friday, December 7th. It says, join us as we celebrate the season with our annual crafts showcase and sale featuring the incredible work of 60-plus regional artisans. We offer shoppers an opportunity to browse, buy, and be inspired by exceptional and extraordinary functional and decorative items, including pottery, jewelry, glass, cards, wearables, birdhouses, ornaments, candles, cards, soaps, lotions, and more. The shopping hours are from noon to 5, Wednesday through Sunday, with extended hours on Thursday, December 13th and 20th until 8 p.m. It is free admission. Again, this is up at the Putnam Arts Council, and every year it just amazes me. So if you really want some unique handmade gifts, that's the place to go. Boom, done.
Absolutely. John, did you have anything?
Yeah, while we're in the holiday spirits, and I hope everybody had a happy and safe Thanksgiving, we are in a very affluent community. We have a lot of blessings to look forward to, but there are members of our community that do not have those same blessings. So Toys for Tots is again doing the annual toy drive collection. We have every department in the town hall